There is a conversation forming right now that has not yet happened, and the person preparing for it has been more careful with their words than they typically are about anything in their life. That is the energy that arrived the moment I opened this reading for you today, Virgo. Not casual conversation, something deliberate, something this person has been turning over in their mind, refining, reconsidering, because they understand that what they are about to say carries genuine weight and deserves to be delivered with care rather than spoken carelessly in passing. Someone is coming to you with something important, and I want to walk you through exactly what Spirit is showing me about who this is, what they want to say, and why now is the moment it is finally arriving. Let me describe what I felt the moment this energy opened, because the very first impression carries real signal about the nature of what we are examining. I felt deliberateness immediately, a specific, considered quality that told me this is not an impulsive conversation about to happen. This is someone who has thought carefully about what they want to communicate, who understands the significance of what they are bringing to you, and who has been preparing themselves, perhaps for longer than you realize, to actually follow through with saying it. I also felt a quality of relief present in this energy, the particular sensation that belongs to someone who has been carrying something for a while and who is approaching the point of finally being able to set that weight down by speaking it honestly rather than continuing to hold it privately. I want to talk about who this person is because Spirit is giving me distinct impressions that I want to honor with real specificity. This is someone whose presence in your life carries genuine significance, not a peripheral acquaintance whose words would not particularly matter to you, but someone whose opinion and whose feelings you genuinely care about. I am sensing this is a person you have history with, whether that history is romantic, familial, or built through sustained friendship, someone whose relationship with you has enough depth that what they are about to say is going to land with real weight rather than being easily dismissed or forgotten. I am also sensing this person does not communicate significant things easily or often. This is not someone who shares every passing thought or feeling readily. When this person decides something is important enough to bring to you directly, it genuinely is, because their threshold for what warrants this level of intentional communication is considerably higher than average. I want to expand on this person's character further because I think the specificity helps you recognize who this is if multiple people in your life could potentially fit this description. I am sensing someone who generally processes things internally before sharing them externally, someone whose outward composure often masks a more complex internal world that they do not readily reveal to most people. This tendency toward internal processing is part of why whatever they are bringing has taken this long to reach the point of actual expression, because their natural pattern involves considerable private reflection before any external communication occurs. I also want to address something about how this person typically relates to vulnerability in general, because I think it adds important context to why this particular conversation represents such a significant departure from their usual patterns. I am sensing this as someone who has, throughout much of their life, found it easier to demonstrate care through actions rather than words. Someone for whom direct verbal expression of significant feeling or significant truth does not come as naturally as it might for others. The fact that they are choosing words this time, rather than continuing to rely solely on action, indicates a genuine stretching beyond their usual comfort zone, specifically because of how much this particular conversation matters to them. Let me speak to what Spirit is showing me about the content of what they want to say, because I think this deserves careful, honest examination. I am sensing this involves an acknowledgement of something possibly related to how they have shown up in your connection recently, possibly related to feelings they have not fully expressed, possibly related to a decision they have made that directly affects the dynamic between you. Whatever the specific content, I am sensing it requires vulnerability on their part, the kind of honesty that does not come easily even to people who generally consider themselves capable communicators. I am also sensing genuine care woven throughout whatever they are preparing to say. This is not a conversation rooted in obligation or duty, something they feel they have to say regardless of how it lands. This comes from a place of caring enough about you and about the connection between you to risk the vulnerability that honest, important communication always requires. I want to expand on this further because I think the specific quality of what they are bringing deserves more thorough examination. I am sensing this person has spent real time considering not just what they want to say, but how their words might land for you specifically, taking into account your own feelings and your own perspective rather than simply focusing on their own need to express themselves. This consideration for your experience, even before the conversation has happened, reflects a level of care and respect that goes beyond simple self-expression into genuine concern for how this communication affects you. I also want to address something about the layered nature of what they may be bringing, because I am sensing this is not necessarily a single, simple piece of information, but rather something with multiple dimensions that have all been building toward this moment of expression. There may be an acknowledgement of past behavior alongside a statement of current feelings, or a piece of difficult information paired with reassurance about their continued commitment to the relationship between you. This layered quality is part of why the conversation has required such careful preparation on their part, because conveying multiple interconnected truths clearly and honestly is considerably more complex than simply stating one isolated fact. Does this feel like it is connecting to someone specific in your life right now, Virgo? Has there been a sense that someone has been building toward a significant conversation even before you had clear evidence of what that conversation might actually involve? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear how this is resonating with your own experience. I want to address why this is happening now specifically, because I think understanding the timing adds important context. I am sensing something shifted recently in this person's own internal world, a moment of clarity or a specific experience that made continuing to hold back what they want to say feel less viable than it previously did. This could have been triggered by something seemingly unrelated to you directly, a personal realization, a conversation with someone else, or simply the accumulated weight of carrying something unspoken for long enough that the carrying itself became its own kind of burden. I am also sensing this timing connects to your own readiness in some way, even if that connection is not immediately obvious. Sometimes important conversations arrive not purely on the other person's timeline, but at a point where both people, even without explicit coordination, have reached a parallel readiness to engage honestly with something that previously felt too significant or too risky to address directly. I want to expand on this synchronicity further because I think it deserves real, thoughtful examination. There is a particular phenomenon that occurs in significant relationships where both people, operating from their own separate internal processes, arrive at similar points of readiness around the same general time, even without any direct communication about this shared movement occurring beforehand. I am sensing this is exactly what has happened here, that your own internal world has been shifting in ways that have created genuine openness to receiving exactly what this person is now preparing to bring. Even though neither of you has explicitly coordinated this timing together, I also want to address something about what may have specifically shifted in your own readiness, because I think this self-awareness will help you receive what is coming with greater clarity. Perhaps you have done your own work around trust, around vulnerability, around what you genuinely want and need from this connection. Work that has created more internal space for honest communication than may have existed previously. This internal work, even if it has occurred quietly and privately, has contributed to creating the conditions where this conversation can now actually happen and actually be received well by both of you. Inhale with me for a moment, Virgo. I want to speak to the emotional texture of how this conversation might actually unfold, because I think preparing for its quality matters as much as understanding its general content. I am sensing this person is going to approach you with noticeable care in how they choose their setting and their timing, wanting to create conditions that allow for genuine, unhurried conversation rather than squeezing something significant into a rushed or distracted moment. This attention to context reflects how seriously they are taking what they want to say, and I want you to notice it as evidence of the genuine weight this conversation carries for them. I am also sensing some nervousness present in how they begin, perhaps an initial hesitation or a slightly awkward opening before they settle into the actual substance of what they want to communicate. This nervousness, rather than indicating something concerning, actually reflects the sincerity of what is coming. People rarely feel this nervous about things that do not genuinely matter to them. I want to describe what specific topics this conversation might involve, because Spirit is showing me several possibilities, and I want you to be able to recognize whichever one applies to your situation. For some of you, this conversation involves a confession of feelings, whether entirely new feelings this person has developed or feelings that have existed for a while but that they have not previously found the courage to express directly. I am sensing genuine vulnerability present in this possibility, the specific quality of someone finally choosing honesty over the safer, more comfortable option of continued silence. For others, this conversation involves an apology or an acknowledgement of something that happened between you, a moment where this person finally takes ownership of behavior or choices that affected you, offering the kind of genuine accountability that has perhaps been missing or incomplete until now. I am sensing real growth present in this possibility, evidence that this person has done genuine reflection rather than simply hoping the issue would resolve itself without direct address. For still others, this conversation involves a significant decision they have made that directly affects the future of your connection, whether that decision involves increased commitment, a change in circumstances that creates new possibilities between you, or simply clarity about where they stand after a period of uncertainty or ambiguity. I want to add a fourth possibility here as well, because Spirit is showing me this as relevant for a portion of you watching this reading. I am sensing this conversation might also involve information this person has been holding, perhaps related to circumstances in their own life that have made certain things complicated or uncertain between you. Information that, once shared, will provide context that helps you understand patterns or behaviors that previously felt confusing or difficult to interpret. This kind of clarifying information, while not always easy to hear, often brings genuine relief once received because it replaces uncertainty and speculation with actual understanding. I also want to address the possibility that this conversation involves a combination of several of these elements simultaneously rather than a single isolated topic. Significant conversations often carry this layered quality, where an apology accompanies a confession of feelings, or where clarifying information arrives alongside a clear statement of intention for how things will be different going forward. I want you to remain open to receiving multiple dimensions within this single conversation rather than expecting it to fit neatly into only one of the categories I have described. I want to address what this conversation is going to require from you as the recipient because I think your own role here deserves thoughtful attention. I want you to approach whatever this person brings with genuine presence rather than immediately moving into analysis or strategic response. Significant, vulnerable communication deserves to be received fully in the moment it is offered, with your complete attention rather than your mind already racing ahead toward how you should respond or what this means for the future. Let yourself actually be present for what is being said before you move into processing what to do with it. I want to speak to something important about your own feelings as this approaches, because I do not want this reading to assume you already know exactly how you will feel or how you should respond. Whatever this person brings, your own genuine reaction deserves to be honored, whether that reaction is immediate clarity about how you feel or a more complex mixture of emotions that requires time to fully sort through. You are not obligated to have a perfectly composed, immediate response simply because this person has clearly put thought and care into what they are bringing to you. You are allowed to ask for time if you need it to sit with what you have heard before formulating your own honest response. Let me speak to what genuine receiving of this conversation might look like, beyond simply listening passively to what is said. I want you to ask clarifying questions if anything feels unclear or incomplete, rather than simply nodding along without fully understanding the depth of what is being communicated. Genuine, important conversations often benefit from genuine engagement rather than passive reception, and asking thoughtful questions can actually deepen the conversation in ways that serve both of you, helping this person feel truly heard while also ensuring you have the full picture necessary to respond authentically. I want to expand on this guidance further because I think practical specificity serves you better than general encouragement alone. If something they share feels incomplete or raises additional questions for you, I want you to feel genuine permission to ask for clarification in the moment rather than holding your questions privately and attempting to piece together understanding on your own afterward. This person has taken the risk of bringing this conversation to you specifically because they want genuine understanding between you and your questions, however direct, are part of honoring that genuine desire for clarity rather than something to be avoided out of concern for making the moment more difficult. I also want to address something about your own emotional responses during this conversation because I think it deserves direct attention. If what is shared produces strong emotion in you, whether relief, hurt, confusion, or joy, I want you to allow that emotion to be present rather than suppressing it in an effort to maintain composure. Genuine emotional response, expressed honestly in the moment, often helps the person sharing understand the true impact of what they have communicated, which can deepen the authenticity of the conversation rather than detracting from it. I want to address something about what comes after this conversation because I do not want this reading to end at the moment of the conversation itself without considering its aftermath. Whatever specifically gets communicated, I am sensing this conversation marks a genuine turning point in the dynamic between you, a moment that both of you will likely look back on as significant regardless of the specific direction your connection takes afterward. The honesty itself, regardless of its specific content, tends to create a different quality of relationship than what existed in its absence, one built on clearer, more direct communication rather than whatever ambiguity or unspoken tension may have characterized things previously. I want to expand on this turning point further because I think it deserves more thorough examination than a brief mention provides. There is a particular quality that significant, honest conversations create in a relationship, a kind of before and after distinction that becomes part of the shared history between two people. Even years later, you may find yourselves referencing this conversation, this moment of genuine vulnerability and honesty, as a marker of when your connection shifted into something deeper or clearer than what existed before it. I also want to address something about how this turning point might affect the broader pattern of communication between you going forward. Often, one significant act of vulnerable honesty makes future honest communication somewhat easier, having established that this kind of openness is possible and survivable within your particular dynamic. I am sensing this conversation may function as a kind of permission granting moment, opening a pathway toward more direct, honest communication that continues benefiting your connection well beyond this single instance. I want to add one final consideration here as well, because I think it matters significantly to how you hold this entire reading. Regardless of the specific outcome of this conversation, whether it leads toward deepening commitment, toward necessary closure, or toward some other direction entirely, the courage this person is demonstrating by choosing honesty over continued silence deserves genuine acknowledgement. Vulnerability of this kind is never easy, and the fact that they are choosing to extend it to you specifically reflects something meaningful about how much your connection genuinely matters to them. As I bring this reading toward its close, I want to leave you with the complete picture Spirit shared today. Someone significant in your life is preparing to bring you something important, communication they have considered carefully, and that carries genuine weight and vulnerability for them to deliver. This is approaching now because something shifted in their own readiness, and the timing likely connects to your own readiness as well, even if that connection is not immediately obvious. Receive whatever comes with genuine presence. Honor your own authentic reaction rather than rushing toward a composed response, and trust that this conversation, regardless of its specific content, represents a meaningful turning point in the honesty and clarity of your connection going forward. Whatever this conversation ultimately holds, trust that you are fully prepared to meet it with both openness and discernment. If this reading resonated with you today, please share it with a Virgo who might be sensing someone preparing to have an important conversation with them. And let me know in the comments who came to mind as you listen to this. I read every comment, and I carry your stories with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, something important is coming. And whatever it is, you are ready to receive it with the same grace that has carried you through everything before this moment.